G'day everyone, welcome back to Check Your Leader TV. Today we're going to continue with our General d'Armée 2 boot camp, the Battle of Crayon, 1814. Right off the bat, I'd like to apologise. I've made a couple of rules errors in putting these videos together. My only defence is that I'm doing it solo, and I don't have like an independent check. Normally when you're playing with someone, if you make an error, your opponent's going to pick you up on it and point it out to you. Now I've tried to minimise that as much as I can by trying to be methodical in what I'm doing, but without that independent check, mistakes are going to happen. With that in mind, I have also been peppering Dave Brown, author of the rules, with some rules clarifications on things that I wasn't too clear on or I wasn't too sure of. And what I'm going to do when I've completed the whole series of boot camps, I'm going to put it together a consolidated list of questions and answers that I've put to and received from Dave Brown. Obviously, I'll run that past Dave before I post it. Hopefully, maybe it might be the basis of a fact or frequently asked questions going forward. Now, the other thing I want to add, of course, is to help mitigate the fact that it's just me playing this. There's nothing wrong with you checking my work. Now, I've already had people come up in the comment section on the Facebook groups, point out where I've made mistakes. There's been essentially 4 corrections been made. One, the correction was incorrect. I was actually correct. And the other 3 were valid points that were raised. And I really do appreciate the input from those individuals taking the time to let me know where I went wrong. Like I said in the last video, there's going to be pop-ups every now and then where when I'm in a specific part of the rules, I'll give a reference, page number, paragraph number, chapter number, maybe something that will help you follow along. Okay, so with that said, if I do make a mistake, please let me know. Put it in the comments section below. And like I said, I have no problem with being corrected because we all benefit for that. Now, one other thing that I should mention before we crack on with the game is Battlefield Accessories sponsors these videos, and they have an excellent offer for viewers of this channel. If you decide you want to buy a set of their fantastic GDA 2 game markers, you can also get a set of these deployment markers absolutely free. Now, there's 6 nations in the set. We've got examples here: Austria, France, Russia, Great Britain. There's also Prussia and Spain. Okay, these deployment markers are really, really good when you're initially setting up a game. So you can get them for free. All you have to do is, when you buy the game markers, also add into your cart a set of these Oh-So Flash deployment markers, and you will pop them in your cart and just enter the promo code, the letter C, the letter Y, the letter L for Check Your Leader. Just those 3 letters, add that in the put that promo code in, and you will get a set of these absolutely free. Furthermore, if you intend to go to Salute in the UK in April, you could purchase some goodness from Battlefield Accessories, and they have some outstanding products. Their tabletop terrain is just fantastic, and they've got game markers and tokens for a suite of a whole bunch of other games as well. Go to Battlefield Accessories and check it out. Whilst you're there, and if you are going to Salute, you can purchase your items, pop them in your cart, and then enter the code Salute51 Pickup, capital S for Salute, 51 capital P for Pickup. The promo code for that is right here. Put that in, and then what that means is that Battlefield Accessories will take that to their stand at Salute, and you can collect them from Salute post free. So if you want to save on postage and you want to get yourself some really nice table swag from Battlefield Accessories, what a great way to do it. They'll bring it the whole, I think it's about 16,000 kilometers. You won't have to pay for postage, and you'll get some really awesome tabletop terrain or tokens for your games. So with all that said, let's now crack on and continue our GDA to boot camp with the Battle of Crayon, 1814.
The other thing I want to point out, of course, is one of the most egregious errors I made in the last video was to do with the skirmisher tasking. When you give a brigade the skirmisher tasking, what it does, one of the things it possibly can permit is 2 extra skirmisher casualty dice to be added to the hand of a single unit that is firing. So, for example, if I give this brigade the skirmisher tasking with just 1 skirmisher tasking, that means that either this unit, or this unit gets the 2 extra dice. Not every unit within the brigade. And obviously, I made a monumental stuff up, and I permitted each unit within the brigade that could deliver skirmish fire, I let them have those 2 dice. To correct that error, what I've done is I've given 1 base of skirmishers that had been removed back to one of the French brigade skirmish lines. So that's sort of evens up the tally somewhat. But more importantly, it is important to note that the skirmisher tasking, when you give it to a brigade commander, for each skirmisher tasking that you allocate, it permits 1 individual unit, either a brigade skirmish line or a garrison, to gain 2 extra skirmisher casualty dice. Now, there are other benefits that you can glean from using the skirmisher tasking, other than just augmenting the fire of units, but I'll refer you back to the rules. Have a look what they are. During this game, we might go there, but open up your book, go to the chapter on skirmishers. You'll see what, the chapter on ADC taskings, and you will see what the skirmisher tasking can actually do for your troops. So it's the beginning of turn 3. The first thing we're going to do is roll for corps orders. The French have all 4 dice available to them, and so they roll. Okay, there's no 1s there, so the corps adjutant can't re-roll the 2 2s that they missed, but the 3 and the 3 are available, so they have the black dice and the white dice available this turn. Now we go to see ADC availability for the French division. Okay, this division currently has on table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 brigades. So 5 brigades will give us 5 aide-de-camps, and because the divisional commander is incomparable, he gets his own ADC as well. Now, one of the things that was pointed out was in General d'Armée version 2, aide-de-camps are not allocated 1 per brigade. It's depending on the numbers of brigades that you have in a division, that's how many ADCs you get, that you get to roll for. In the case of this particular division, currently on table, like I said, we have 5 brigades. So if it's 4 or 5 brigades, you get 5 aide-de-camps. So we're going to roll for the 5 French aide-de-camps for their availability. We've got 2 5s and a 4, no double 6s, so we don't get an extra one there. A 2, that's a miss. But because we have a divisional adjutant, we get to re-roll the die that rolled the single 1. Hoping to get a 3 or better, we get a 4. So that means that the French, for this turn, have 4 aide-de-camps. Oops, I forgot to roll for the aide-de-camp due to the divisional commander being exceptional. So they're actually rolling 6. So we'll roll for him now. We've missed him. So, yep, we've still only got 4 aide-de-camps. I said the divisional commander was exceptional. It's actually incomparable, but you get the idea. He's a pretty switched on dude. Okay, so now we move on to the allies. Now, I might have alluded to the fact that we have essentially, we've got 2 divisions essentially in the Allied army. We've got a Prussian brigade, a Prussian division, and a Russo-Austrian division. But for the purpose of this game, I'm just running them as a single division. It's like a combined division. So in this division, we have 3 Prussian brigades in the Prussian division, and then we have in the Russian division we have 2 Russian infantry brigades, and then a Russian cavalry brigade and an Austrian cavalry brigade. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run them all as both divisions as a single combined division. So the Prussians with their 3 brigades would generate 4 dice, and the Austro-Russians or Russo-Austrian division with their 4 brigades would generate 5 dice. That would give us a grand total of 9 dice. But because it is my intention to run them as just one combined Allied division with 6 or 7 brigades, you get 6 ADCs. So, first of all, we're going to roll for the core orders. Now, in regards to core orders, Blucher last turn, as you recall, was riding the line. So in this turn, they don't get that blue dice. They just get the red, white, and black. So we'll roll for their core orders first. They miss out on the red, but they do get the black and the white. Now we'll roll for their ADC availability. Like I said, they've got 6 dice. I think last turn I gave them 7. Well, that was just me being overly generous towards them. So they get 6 dice. So now we're going to roll for their ADC availability. Okay, there's a 1 there, they missed that one. There's a 2 there, they missed that one. They don't have a divisional aide de camp, so they can't re-roll the 1, the score of 1. So they've got a 3, 3, 3, and a 3, which gives them 4 aide de camps. So they get 4 ADCs available to them for this 3rd turn of our game. Now, what the core order of the allies are going to use is the white one, which is spy. What they're going to do is they're going to play the spy on the French, which means they now have to re-roll all their successful aide de camps. So that can be pretty painful. Now, the French have 4 ADCs, so they're going to have to re-roll them due to the spy being played on them by the Allies. So we're going to re-roll theirs now. Okay, a double 6, a 2, and a 1. Now, they can't re-roll the 2. The 1, they do have a core adjutant. We're going to have to come back with that to find out if the core adjutant, the divisional adjutant can re-roll that 1. The double 6, however, generates an extra ADC. So that's 1 ADC, that's 1 ADC, double 6, that's another one. So far they have 3 ADCs. They've lost 1 due to this spy. Yeah, the divisional divisional adjutant can only be used once per turn. So because the French used them in their original turn, they can't re-roll. They can't re-roll the 1 that was rolled due to the spy being inflicted upon them. So they're down to 3 aide de camps. Now, the French, for their part, they have the black and the white themselves. They could, if they want, use the spy themselves. Now, important thing to note in regards to spy, it can only be used once per game. So the Allies are not going to be able to play the spy again. That said, the French could do the same because they do have the black and the white available. So one good turn deserves another. So the French are also going to use the white dice, and they're going to invoke the spy as well, which means that the Allies are going to have to re-roll their 4 dice. So gathering up their 4 dice with the 3s on it. Okay, they've got a 3, a 6, and a 4. the one they lose, therefore they're down to 3 aide-de-camps as well. So both sides now in turn 3 are down to 3 aide-de-camps. So the French with their 3 aide-de-camps, they're going to play it safe. They're going to give a skirmisher tasking to this bold brigade commander here. They're not going to give any tasking to this cavalry brigade. They will give a re-roll, an aide-de-camp or a brigade attachment to this brigade, and they will give a brigade attachment to the poor brigade, poor brigade commander, so that at least these are less likely to go hesitant. The only real threat of a hesitant brigade being this brigade here without any kind of brigade attachment whatsoever. The Allies, for their part, they're going to give the skirmish tasking to the bold brigade commander here. They're going to play it a bit brave here. They're going to give artillery assault to this brigade, but with only 3 aide-de-camps, they're now out of aide-de-camps. So no safety net, no re-roll. And that means that all the other Allied brigades also will not have a re-roll. They don't have ride the line because they've already used that for their corps commander, and obviously they used the spy. So even if they didn't have if they did have ride the line, because they had used the spy tasking, the corps commander can't use 2 orders. He can only use 1. It's one of those conundrums that he's faced with. Okay, so that's the allocation of. That's determining the core orders. We've determined ADC availability, and we've allocated our ADC taskings. Neither side is using a CNC order at this stage, remembering that the Allies only have 1 CNC order, whereas the French have 2. Now, the observant amongst you would have noticed that that large Prussian battery actually is carrying 4 casualties. That means that a battery that has 4 or more casualties cannot use the artillery assault tasking. However, enter the divisional commander, or the CNC, and he can allocate an artillery caisson to a brigade and can alleviate this problem. There are 4 tasks, and each task costs 1 caisson. So you can use an artillery caisson to replenish ammunition, and you can use an artillery caisson that allows a battery that has 4 or more casualties to assault fire. It also means that if it does get a low on ammunition result, it can ignore it for that particular turn. Now, there's 2 other uses for caissons by the CNC, but if you go to the appropriate page, 71, 13.5, artillery caissons, you'll see how they're used there. So when do you use artillery caissons? As long as they're used in the command phase, you're good to go. So it's during the command phase that the player would decide whether or not he's going to commit an artillery caisson. And if I was playing a game and we'd gone past the command phase and we were into the actual shooting phase, and I noticed someone had a battery that had 4 casualties on it, and they had used the artillery assault tasking, but they hadn't deployed a caisson and one was available. I would let them, use it. I would say, hey, yeah, you haven't committed a caisson to that. You'll either lose the artillery assault tasking, or you're going to have to commit the caisson. To do anything otherwise, I think, is just, you're just being an arsehole. So, like all these things, when you're playing the correct spirit. Okay, so we've done our core orders. We've rolled for our ADC availability. We've allocated our aide-de-camps with their taskings. So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll to see which brigades are hesitant and which brigades aren't. So we'll start off with this brigade here on the French side. It's a poor brigade commander, but he does have a brigade attachment. So 4, so he passes, so he's good to go. Brigade on the hill with the guns. It's a small brigade. He is just a standard brigade commander, but he does have an ADC attachment, brigade attachment. 3, he passes, so he's good to go. So now we're rolling for this tiny little brigade here. 3, they're good, no problems whatsoever. The bold brigade commander with the skirmisher tasking and his organic reroll. Now, he passes. I'll show you over here. What it actually says in the rules is that bold brigade commanders roll 2 dice and pick whichever one they want. That sounds just like rolling them separately, having a reroll. Regardless, Sute and the guard cavalry brigade will roll 2 dice and he'll pick the highest, obviously. Okay, he would have failed on that one, but he passes on this. So, as it stands, all the French brigades are good to go. We have no hesitant brigades, and so now we'll do the allies. Now we're rolling the ally brigades. The only bold brigade commander that the allies have is this Prussian chap here. He has the skirmisher tasking and his organic reroll. Like I said, bold brigade commander rolls 2, takes the highest. Well, he's passed. Okay, no problem there. This brigade, he has the artillery assault without a reroll, so let's hold our breath. He's passed, so he's good to go. This Russian brigade right here, no reroll for them. They're fine. So now we're rolling for these brigades. This Russian infantry brigade here, he's fine. He's rolled a 3. Russian cavalry brigade, 6. He's fine. No worries at all. Austrian cavalry, 5. No problems. And finally the brigade up here, 5. No problems. So we have one of those rare situations where not a single brigade has gone hesitant. That means both brigades will, armies will be rolling 2d6. The French will be the white, the Allies will be the red. Okay, so that's a tie. Now, in the case of a tie, the French win. Okay, so this now brings us on to the charge phase. You'll find charges on page 36, chapter 8, under the heading charges, of course. The most important rule here is draw your attention to paragraph 8.0.1, 1 charge, 1 target. A brigade may only charge 1 charge, declare 1 charge per turn. Multiple charges by units from 1 brigade in a turn are not permitted. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to understand. Okay, the charge procedure itself is the phasing player declares their charges. The non-phasing player then declares any charges that they might have. And then the phasing player moves their charges and conducts the charge procedure for each charge. And then that's repeated by the non-phasing player. So the French have the initiative. The French are asked, do you have any charges declared? And they do. From this brigade here, okay, the young guard, the guard cavalry brigade under General Sute, okay, they're going to have the Empress Dragoons charge these Prussian reservists from this small Prussian brigade. Now, that means that's the only charge for this brigade. Now, they could go supported because cavalry charges can be supported by other units within the brigade, whereas infantry charges, they need an infantry assault order if they are to charge supported. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're sticking to this over here. So this cavalry unit is going to charge that battalion from this brigade. That means this regiment, these Eclair Scouts, could not then go, well, you know what, we're going to charge the guns, for example, if they were assuming they were in range. Because it's 1 charge per brigade with 1 unit per brigade, and then any other units from that brigade are either in a support role or they're not charging at all. Okay, and another thing that needs to be considered when we're talking about cavalry charges, if there is a cavalry target that is within range, the cavalry that's launching the charge has to do a discipline test and pass it if it wants to charge infantry rather than the cavalry. If it passes the discipline test, you can then continue. You can then go on to charge cavalry. Not an issue for the Emperor's Dragoons because this Allied cavalry here is not within charge range. So they don't have to do a discipline test, therefore they can attack those Prussian reservists. Okay, so we've determined that the Emperor's Dragoons can charge. They're within charge range. They're not from a hesitant brigade. They're not unformed. So they're good to go. So the first thing we do is we move the charging unit to within 3 inches of their targets. So it's simply just a matter of figuring out where the 3-inch point is. Okay, it's good. And then they get there, and at this point, the defenders have to carry out their reactions to that charge. So what we have here is infantry in line being charged by cavalry. So the first thing they have to do is they have to pass a discipline test to see if they form square or not. Okay, now the key thing to remember here is that infantry in line do not get to choose whether or not, well, the player does not get to choose whether or not the infantry forms square or not. You've got to remember, you're not playing as a battalion commander, you're playing as a divisional or corps commander. So essentially what will happen is the dice roll for the discipline test will determine whether or not that battalion commander and his men have been able to effectively form a square, or they've failed in the process of doing that. If they fail, they'll either go unformed or they'll break. If they're successful, they'll form square. So the thing to remember here is infantry in line being charged by cavalry. When they test, they actually are demoted 1 level. So even though they're classed as reservists / recruits, they'll actually drop 1 level down, which is, I'm going to try and pronounce this correctly, Enfance Pedasse. I'll probably butchered that. Apologies to French everywhere. So they're going to need a 9 on 2 dice to pass. Okay, they've rolled a 7, which is not high enough. Even if they were being tested as reservists, they need an 8 or more. So they have failed. So if they fail, they will go unformed. Unfortunately, though, it's even worse than that, because if you look at the discipline test, unformed skirmishers, they take 1 casualty. Infantry versus charging cavalry, they go unformed and no defensive fire. So they will go unformed and they will not be able to shoot at the cavalry who's charging in on them. So at this point now we would go into resolving the charge procedure here. However, these cavalry have come up to be within 6 inches of the skirmishers, and as I've stated previously, any skirmishers within 6 inches of cavalry must withdraw. So they're going to go 18 inches to the rear, okay, or behind formed troops. So they're going to go back in behind this battalion from their parent brigade. They take a casualty dice worth of casualties. 1, so they're fortunate there. They don't take any casualties, but they are now to the rear and they are also unformed. Now, the defender can also get support in the form of supporting fire from any defending unit that was in which is within canister or volley range. Now, there's no infantry that can provide supporting fire for these guys because none of them are within volley range and none of them are within the arc. This battery here is able to fire. Unfortunately for the Prussians, these Russian gunners are over canister range away. The canister for 12-pounder artillery is 15 inches. This battery is agonizingly short of providing that for these poor Prussian reservists. So no supporting fire from them, no supporting fire from this Prussian battery over here. Now these Landwehr to the rear, they have essentially 3 options. They can either fire, so if they were on the flank, they could provide fire support. But if they fire, they wouldn't be able to provide a supporting re-roll. More of that as we go on. But obviously they can't fire there; they'll be shooting their mates in the back. Or they may form square. But if they form square, they cannot provide any kind of support whatsoever. So if they were to the flank, they wouldn't be able to provide a dice reroll in the charge resolution, and they also wouldn't be able to shoot because they're too busy forming. Yeah, there's another interesting twist in this scenario. These guys are recruits. So recruits classed as inferior infantry supports. Inferior infantry supports are limited either forming square or providing fire support. Obviously, they can't provide fire support. They can't provide a re-roll, so they're just going to have to form square. That's really all they can do, is form square and hope that their mates don't get cut down by these cavalry. So we see here now that the land bearer formed square. These guys run in a unformed state, and then we do the resolution of the charge. So essentially what we'll do now is we have to work out the status of the lead units, both attacking and defending. The lead unit has no casualties on it. It's formed, therefore they're classed as disciplined. They'll be rolling 2 dice, and they will get 1 re-roll because they are formed cavalry facing infantry in line. Actually, the Empress Dragoons will also get a 2nd re-roll because they are classed as veterans and they're fighting lower grade troops. The reservists, because they are unformed, they will be classed as shaken. So they'll roll 3 dice and they will get no re-rolls. There's no supporting units and there's nothing to help them out. So they'll roll 3 dice and they'll take the worst, the lower of those 3, the 2 lower dice for their score. So we're going to roll the dice all together. The French will be red, the Prussians obviously black. The Prussians are taking the 2 worst rolls here. Okay, so they've got a 5, 4, and a 4. That's a pretty good roll. Okay, so they've got themselves an 8 so far. That's not bad. Now, the French, they have 2 re-rolls. Obviously, they're going to re-roll the 3. So currently they're sitting on 4, but they can re-roll this twice. So obviously they don't want that. 5. That's acceptable. So they're going to take that. So that is a result of 9 to 8. So that's a very gutsy effort by these Prussian reservists. And that result is the cavalry will close and combat with elan, and the infantry will go unformed. Now, they're already unformed, so unformed on unformed equals unformed. These guys will close in, and they will get their Gucci combat with elan marker, courtesy of Battlefield Accessories, so we don't forget. And that will now be resolved in the melee phase. There are no other charges to resolve, so now we move on to the next phase, which is movement. So tactical movement first. So we'll do French tactical movement, then the Allied tactical movement. We'll do then French reserve movement and Allied reserve movement, and then we'll move on to the firing phase. So I'm just going to skip through the movement. I'll do all that and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so for the French, in the tactical movement phase, the Red Lancers have moved up onto the plateau together with, and the Eclair Scout Lancers have just basically moved across to their left. In the centre, not much has happened, with the exception of the fact that those Dragoons have moved up slightly, but they don't want to they don't want to be masking their guns. The real movement has happened over on this flank, where we see this Young Guard Brigade has advanced on to the village of Ailes. They've come through the skirmish screen. They're not going to do anything this turn of skirmishes, so because they're just standing around, they're just going to basically reform. So they'll take that unformed marker off them. Young Guard have come through. They just interpenetrate. They go straight through the skirmish screen. They're not within 3 inches of these Prussian Schutzen, so they don't have to step back. The battery limbered up, and these Young Guard, small Young Guard brigade came through as well. For the Allies, This battalion that was in line has formed column simply for the fact that it's a little bit more of a robust formation to be in when threatened by cavalry. The Prussian Jaegers have stepped back, concerned about the approaching French cavalry on the spur. They're still within 12 inches of the French skirmish line, so they'll be able to shoot at them, no problems there. Obviously the Allied cavalry is reoriented to face the threat from the French cavalry. There is no reserve movement, so now we can go straight into the shooting phase. I should add that these Landwehr skirmish line, they have reordered, so they've lost their unformed marker. These chaps, however, can't reorder because when you flee from cavalry, it's not a bonus move or anything like that. So if they have cause to withdraw from cavalry, they remain unformed for this turn. And we can see here these Russian battalions have formed square as well. So there was no reserve movement to speak of, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move straight into the shooting phase. The French have the initiative, so they will fire first. Okay, so we start off with skirmish fire first. Now this skirmish line here, they've reordered, so in the movement phase they did nothing. They've been passed through by this column, but there still is a gap for them to shoot through here. Now obviously they can't shoot the entire brigade skirmish line. So how many dice do they get? Well, they get one because they're a brigade skirmish line, and they get one for each base that can shoot. So there's another 2 there. That's 3. They don't have any skirmish taskings or anything crazy like that. So 3 dice, and they score nothing. A 2, a 3, and a 5, no hits. So the next skirmish fire that we'll look at will be this skirmish line over here. There's 3 bases, and they're a brigade skirmish line, so that's a grand total of 4. They're shooting at troops in a BUA because they're going to fire at these guys here. So they lose 2. That gives them 2 dice, a 5 and a 6. So that is a hit. So they will go up to 2 casualties. So the next and final skirmishes for the French to fire is this brigade skirmish line here. They are within range of the battery, so that's what they're going to shoot at. However, these are closer and in their arc, so the first hit will have to go on them. They are a brigade skirmish line, so that's 1 dice. There's 3 bases, so that's another 3. That's a grand total of 4 dice. But wait, there's more. They also have, this brigade has the brigade skirmish tasking in play. So the only unit within the brigade that can possibly use that brigade skirmish tasking is that brigade skirmish line. So again, 1 for the brigade skirmish line, another 3 for 3 bases, that's 4. But because they have the skirmish tasking, they get another 2. Okay, so that's a grand total of 6. Okay, 6 dice at the battery. Okay, they've got a 6, a 5, a 4. Okay, so that is 3 hits, which equals 1 casualty. That 1 casualty has to go on the Prussian Jaeger. They've already got 3 hits, so that's going to remove a base. So that concludes all the French skirmish fire. So now we go to the Prussians, Russians, the Allies to conduct their skirmishing. Now this brigade has a skirmish tasking in order, and I'm not going to make the same mistake I made before. All right, 1 unit will get that skirmish tasking added to it, and it will be the garrison on this side of the village. So we'll do these guys first. Brigade skirmish line, that gives them 1 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4 bases, so that gives them another 4 dice. That takes them up to 5. And there is 2 or more bases that are armed with rifles, so that gives them another 1. So that's 2, 4, 6 dice. They're shooting at this French column advancing towards them. That is closer than the skirmish line, so all the hits are going to go on these bad boys. 6, 5, that's a total of 4 hits for 2 casualties. Now, did I say that all the casualties must go on them? Well, that's not right. Draw your attention to 11.3.1, firing with a brigade skirmish line. There is a priority, as I've stated in the last video. When firing a brigade skirmish line, must engage the highest priority target in the following order. An enemy charging unit, well, they're not charging, there's just an enemy unit. An enemy unit, that'll be them. However, the first casualty caused must go on any enemy skirmish unit in arc and or range. So they're in arc and they're in range. So there's 2 casualties. The first one will go here. They've already got 2 casualties. So that those 2 hits converts to the first casualty. That's 1 base gone from these bad boys. And that means there's going to be a casualty. The second casualty will go on this Young Guard battalion here. So that's how I read it. If I'm wrong, I will seek clarification, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Okay, so the next skirmishing unit that we're going to go to is this battalion here. It's a standard size battalion. It's in as a garrison, so they get 5 dice. Garrisons get 5 dice unless it's a small garrison, in which case it gets 4. So 5 dice. They have the skirmisher tasking, so that will add another 2. So that 5 will go up to 7. Okay, 7 dice, and they're shooting at this column advancing on them. So that's a 7 dice total. The 2 dice are the skirmish tasking dice, just so we can see if, what kind of effect that has. Well, that's abysmal shooting in any ways. That's 2 1s, 2 3s, 2 2s, a single 6. These guys, I don't know, they're maybe the fact that the garrison to their rear is on fire, the beating of the drums, the shouts and screams of the evil emperor, whatever it is, they couldn't hit a barn with a shotgun at this point. So all those rounds downrange, 1 hit, which equals no casualties. Moving right along, we now have the garrison to their right firing at these French skirmishers in the woods. Now, they could shoot at these guys because they are within 12 inches. And you know what? They will. So they're going to fire at those guys first. So it's a garrison, so 5 dice. They're going to try and help their buddies out and shoot at these guys. However, the first hit will have to go on these skirmishers in the woods that are peppering away at them. So 5 dice, no pluses, no minuses. Now that's much better. That is 4 hits, 2 casualties. The first one will go here, and 1 casualty will go on this Young Guard battalion, boldly moving towards that garrison. Chipping away. The next skirmisher, and the only skirmisher left to look at, are the Prussian Schutzen on the spur. So that's a brigade skirmish line. There's 1 dice there, and there's 3 bases. That gives them a grand total of 4, and they are within range of the French skirmishers. 4 dice, 1 hit, no casualties. Okay, so that's all the French skirmisher firing done, the Prussian skirmisher firing done. Now we go to artillery fire. There's only 1 battery to consider, and that is the battery over in front of the farm, and they're going to engage in a bit of counter battery fire. So this battery here is going to fire on the large Prussian battery there. They're at long range. That's the only negative modifier against them at this stage. So they're going to be rolling 2 dice, and they'll be firing on the inferior battery table. Whoa, okay, that's pretty telling. 11, that is going to be for that battery. Ouch. Okay, so an inferior battery rolling an 11 is 2 and a discipline test. That's going to take that battery up to 6 casualties, which means they will be officially worn, which means they will drop a level when they test. Okay, so they're a line artillery unit, so they would normally pass on a 7 or more, but because they have 6 casualties, they drop a level. They're testing on the reservist recruit line, so it needs an 8 or more to pass. 7 or 5, they will go unformed, and they will retreat if they roll a 4 or less. Okay, they've rolled an 8, so they've passed. So those Prussian gunners are clearly made of pretty stern stuff. So what we're going to go on with now is the Allied artillery shooting. Now, we'll start with this large battery here because it has artillery assault order in play, and it's had a caisson given to it. Now, the reason it was given the caisson is because if a battery has 4 or more casualties, as a general rule, well, as a rule, it can't do artillery assault. But the caisson, however, permits a battery with 4 or more casualties to do an artillery assault. So it can still use the caisson for its intended task, which was an artillery assault, and so it's going to go ahead and do that. However, now that it's a warned battery, it's obviously there are going to be penalties for that. Okay, so this battery wants to engage the columns. It could engage that skirmish line there, but if it did, due to the fact that it's worn and it's shooting at skirmishes, that's 2 negative modifiers. It'll be firing with 1 single dice. So yeah, that's not on the cards. So it'll fire at the columns. It's on artillery assault, so there's 2 dice for it. It's shooting at targets columns at effective range, so that's another casualty dice. It is worn, so that's 1 negative modifier against it. So it goes from standard to inferior. So it's an inferior battery firing with 3 casualty dice. So the red dice will be the casualty dice, the black dice for the inferior battery. Okay, so that's 8. 1 hit with a casualty dice, 2 misses there. 8, I'm pretty sure, is going to be for an inferior battery. 8 is 1 hit. So 2 casualties all up. Then there will be penetrative or bounce through fire as well at the column behind the target. Now, bounce through fire or penetrative fire, because these guard flankers are behind this unit of conscripts, they will receive 1 CD. They're within 3 inches, so they're within supporting range. So as a consequence of that, they receive 1 CD bounce through fire. And they've rolled a 1, which is no casualties on them. So they did not suffer from the bounce through. Now we go to the Russian artillery battery. Okay, and the final artillery firing we have is this large Russian battery here firing at that French cavalry. Now, the closest target are the Eclair Lancers or the Eclair Scouts, so that will be the target. It's an effective range. They're shooting at a column, so they'll get 1 casualty dice for that, and that's pretty much it. So, in fact, we're just using the standard battery firing table. Black dice are the artillery, and the red is the CD. Okay, 5. So, consulting the table on the standard battery, 5 is 1 casualty, and a 4 on the CD is a 2nd casualty. So 2 casualties on these lancers here, these scouts. And that concludes all the artillery fire. There are no volleys. No one's at volley range at this point. So now we're going to go into the melee phase. Okay, so this is the first melee that we've had to resolve in this game. Now, you will find how we conclude or how we resolve combat in chapter 16, combat. So essentially the way it works is infantry and cavalry units both start off with a pool of 5 dice each, and then with modifiers we add or subtract dice until we come to the final number for both the attacker and defender, and then we simply roll on a table and we see what the result is. Okay, so now we calculate the how many dice each side has. Like we said, that we start off with a pool of 5 each. we'll start off with the Empress Dragoons, and we'll use red dice to represent the French. They have 5 dice as their starting point. They gain 1 because they have Elan from the charge resolution. That was a consequence of going through the charge resolution. And they get another 1 because they are veteran troops against poorer grade enemies. So that gives them 7 dice. The Prussians, they start off with 5, but they're unformed, so they're going to lose 1 dice there, and they are in line versus cavalry, so they'll lose another dice there. So it's 3 dice versus 7. 4, 5, and 6 are hits. Each hit's a casualty. Anything else is a miss. Okay, so the Prussians, they've put up a hell of a fight, and they've inflicted 3 casualties on the Empress Dragoons. So we'll place them on now. The Prussian reservists, however, have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a difference of 2. They rolled a 1 and a 2 and they missed. That's a difference of 2. That will see the following result. For cavalry versus infantry or artillery, win by 2 or more. Winning cavalry, take the ground or withdraw. Losing cavalry will retreat, but that's not their concern. Winning infantry would have stood, but the infantry lost, so they disperse. So the Prussian reservist regiment is basically cut down and blown away, and the Empress Dragoons, they can either withdraw or they can take the ground. Now, what's important to note here is when a unit disperses, it's not automatically just straight away lifted off the table. What it has to happen is it has to flee for the first 6 inches directly away, and then it's lifted off the table. In that process, if it goes through friendlies to its rear, they unform them. So this square will now go unformed. It's also worth noting this brigade is faltering as well because they've just had a unit wiped out. Now the winning cavalry, they can take, when they take the ground, they can move up to an additional 3 inches. But if in doing so, they're not allowed to come within 3 inches of the enemy. So they're just going to take the ground by just sitting where they were on top of the pile of dead reservists, and they won't use the withdraw option, which is a good option for charging cavalry if they're victorious, is to then, once they've chewed up the enemy, to withdraw to safety. But the Empress Dragoons, in this case, are going to stay there. Okay, so that concludes turn 3, and so now we move on to turn 4. Okay, so that concludes turn 3, and we're going to wrap it up there for today. We've gone through the charge procedure, and we've gone through the close combat. What we're going to go on with in the next video will be the commencement of turn 4, and there's going to be a lot going on. An assault into a BUA by an infantry brigade, and some cavalry charges. Looks like that's shaping up to happen. So we're going to wrap it up there. Please like, share, and subscribe if you found these videos interesting. I don't want to go any longer than an hour in these particular boot camps because I think that's probably tearing the backside out of it. Also, don't forget that promo code if you want your free deployment markers. When you purchase a set of GDA2 game markers, just put in the promo code the letters C, the letter Y, and the letter L for Check Your Leader, and you will get a free set of deployment markers as well. So we'll wrap it up there for now. See you for part 4, where things are just going to go off. So until next time, Ubiquay.